Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is James Patty, and I am the president of the International Propeller Club of the United States. On behalf of our officers and our members who belong to Propeller Club ports located throughout the United States and overseas, I would like to welcome you to the first in our series of conversations with leading government and industry figures who play a key role on matters affecting the maritime industry and the efficient and economical movement of waterborne commerce. We are extremely pleased to have as our speaker today, the Honorable John Porcari, Port Envoy to the administration's Supply Chain Disruptions Task Force. In fact, we would be hard-pressed to find anyone with more experience and expertise on issues affecting the operation of our ports and the shipping supply chain than Mr. Porcari. Prior to his work for the Biden administration, Porcari served as Deputy Secretary of Transportation during President Obama's administration. And before that, as Deputy Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation. I know we are all eager to hear what Mr. Porcari has to say, not only about the problems and delays we have experienced, but more importantly, about the steps the administration is taking in conjunction with Congress, the maritime industry, and maritime labor to relieve congestion, improve operations, and facilitate the movement of U.S. imports and exports. Mr. Porcari has agreed to answer questions at the end of his presentation. You can send your questions at any time to our International Executive Vice President, Admiral Joel Whitehead, through the Q&A link on the bottom of your screen. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce the Honorable John Porcari. Mute.
Thank you, Jim. And it wouldn't be a day if I didn't forget to unmute myself at least once. So thanks. And thank you all for joining today. This is obviously a topic that's front and center to the nation's and the world's economy and to the elected leadership at the presidential, state and local level as well. So I'd like to just talk very briefly about a little bit about what's going on, the work that we're doing with many of you that are gathered in this virtual room, and then open it up for questions and dialogue and discussion. We have this rare opportunity that doesn't often happen in the maritime field, where the spotlight is actually on the ports, on maritime related issues. And in general, let's make sure we use this as a positive opportunity going forward to fix some of the things that we together know that we've needed to do for a while. First, at the risk of stating the obvious, the maritime community has been on the front lines during the pandemic, during COVID, both through the initial pandemic and the most lately the Omicron reappearance. But through that, we have a new definition of frontline workers, and the longshore workers, the management, everyone who's working throughout the maritime industry are essentially frontline workers now for the nation's economy. And I wanted to start by thanking everyone for the hard work that you've done over the last year plus, and then the remaining work we have to do together to actually rebuild the goods movement chain in general and the maritime component of it in particular in a more durable way for the future. We've learned some hard lessons together that first of all, this goods movement chain is a system of systems, and it's only as strong as the weakest link. And when any element of this goods movement chain, whether it's maritime or inland from there, is impacted, the entire goods movement chain suffers. And this is one of those rare events and occasions where it can have a dual impact, not just on economic productivity and output in the country and economic activity in general, but also can be inflationary. And so we've worked very hard together to minimize that, I think, with considerable progress. And so the first thank you is actually for the rush leading up to the holidays and the holiday goods movement part of it in general. As you no doubt have heard, the ports and the maritime component of our goods movement chain move record volumes this year, above the pre-pandemic peak, in what we believe will be the new floor for activity going forward. But everybody put their shoulder to the wheel, and it really showed in terms of goods availability on shelf, in terms of critical supplies such as medical supplies being delivered on time, and again, the record volume of imports in particular to the U.S. So the work that we are undertaking is basically two parts. In the short term, it's working with industry on short-term operational improvements that tweak the system we have, get the maximum throughput from it, eliminate bottlenecks, build up fluidity and velocity at the ports, and all of those operational improvements work at the margins. But I think we've shown together over the last 4 months or so that those margins add up. They can actually make a very big difference. So if the operational work is the first part of the task, the second part is laying a foundation for the future. And we've started from the very beginning of this work to lay that foundation for the future in terms of brick and mortar projects, new policies, and a recognition of the interdependence of the supply chain overall. And I wanted to spend a moment talking about next steps and where we're going with these more permanent improvements to the supply chain. First, it's no secret to anyone in the industry that we're living for the most part on investments that our parents and grandparents made, whether it's shoreside port investments, whether it's the waterside dredging and maintenance activities, or whether it's the inland transportation system, rail, trucking, and other that support goods movement. We simply haven't kept up with the investments that we need to. So the good news in this discussion is the bipartisan infrastructure law, which has now been signed into law and is underway, has unprecedented funding across the board for the transportation system in the US. On the port side of it, there's $17 billion of funding over 5 years. That's an order of magnitude more funding than has been provided for ports in the past. And what it essentially recognizes is that ports and the maritime transportation system, coastal ports, inland waterways, Great Lakes, are an integral part of our transportation system, and it really should be thought of as such, not just some separate element. That $17 billion is going to be going out the door in several ways. First, through a competitive grant program, the Port Infrastructure Development Program. And with the Recovery Act, the stimulus bill in 2009, that was actually the first time that there was federal funding for landside port activities in a relatively small way at the time. This is a large expansion of federal support for physical infrastructure and other types of infrastructure like information technology at our ports. It's a recognition that again, although